Welcome to the Family Nonsense Podcast, providing personal finance for families. Join Rich and James, who debate, relate, and make sense of the financial nonsense. All right, welcome to another episode of the Family Nonsense Podcast. This episode is about inflation. So we're going to talk about how families can help fight inflation and overcome all these crazy obstacles that we're seeing out there. So Rich, let's dive into the first topic. How can families budget toward these are really crazy times? How are families going to survive out here? How should they budget? How should they spend their money? How should they save their money? Let us know.
What's up, James? How you doing? These are all great questions, and they're like top of mind for everybody right now because everywhere you go, you feel like you're getting ripped off, right? So no matter what store you walk into, you walk out, being a little bit upset, thinking like, how did I just spend that much money? I really do find every time I leave somewhere, I'm looking at the receipt. I'm like, how did it just cost that much? I don't really get it, but That's the world that we are living these days. So, my best advice, I always start out by saying, first of all, you need to turn the lights on. You need to know what your actual budget looks like and how much money you spend every month, right? So having all the different categories and seeing how much money do we typically spend on groceries, on eating out, on all of these things, just so you have an idea of where your money goes, right? And then it's like you need to tighten the purse strings. So as we go into this inflationary period, it's like, all right, the cost of everything. I mean, in reality, they say that the CPI is up like 8.5%, 8.3%, but you go into a grocery store and it's like 20% higher. The things that we're buying every day, they feel like they're like 20 to 25% higher. So it's like, how do I cut back a little bit? How do I tighten up a little bit to get me through this? And it's not easy. So it's like, you have to start thinking about what, needs versus wants. What do I really need to buy? Rather, what do I really want to buy?
Yeah.
So it's like, you have to start making those tougher decisions, not saying you shut it all down. We're not at the point where it's like, all right, I'm not spending any money anywhere, because we might get to that point where you feel that way because it just drives you that nuts that things cost that much, right? But it's like, all right, how do I, walk out of here and spend the same amount? Maybe I have to buy less things, spend the same amount that I used to, and maybe it means buying one or two less things, or just cutting back a little bit. But you just have to be very aware and cognizant of the environment and the prices of everything, and start to dial it down, because you don't want to be in a situation where you're going into a deficit every month, and all of a sudden, you need to start living on credit cards, or you need to dip into your emergency fund, and you start to pull on those things to try to keep up your lifestyle. You need to cut the lifestyle down if you're in that situation. You don't want to start carrying credit card debt, because then it's just that snowball effect. Things get worse and worse. And then if we really go into a recession, then what happens if the bottom falls out? What happens if you lose your job? Then it's really bad. So it's like, you need to start preparing now for worse things that could happen in the future. And if they don't happen, then great. Then you're on more solid financial footing. But you really do need to start being prepared for worse things to come.
Yeah, no, I like your take on that. My take is, I'm starting to get a little pissed off with inflation. It's really kind of, I was able to deal with it really good, say about 6 months ago. I was breaking even. I was saving $50 a week on my food bill. And then now it's at the point where I really can't, I really can't use my hacks anymore. They're not working as good as they used to. So instead of really just getting mad and there's really no way around this. So I decided that I'm just going to challenge myself. And the best thing to do really is try to overcome these obstacles, right? We're all in this together. No one's avoiding inflation. No matter what you make, you're getting hit with inflation. So I decided to challenge myself. I decided to audit everything that I spent. So look at my bank statement, see where I can cut out the fat. And also take a look at, what things am I not using? What things, maybe I should even spend more money on certain things if I'm going to cut out on others. So really audit, where my money is being spent. Is there things that are going up in price that are ridiculous, right? And with that money that I'm going to cut out, could I put it somewhere else? Could I invest it? So I try to kind of audit everything. So for an example, like Netflix, they increased their prices. I think about a year ago, or maybe a year and a half ago, I was paying about $10 a month. Really didn't mean nothing to me. And now I noticed there was a deduction on my statement. It was basically like $22. And I like Netflix, and they should increase their price. Everyone should keep increasing their prices. But I really wasn't getting $22 worth, with Netflix. I was watching maybe a show a month. So I decided to take the price of the $22 and I decided to invest it into going to the gym instead. which was even cheaper. And I was able to now spend 15 hours at the gym and try to, increase my health and get in better shape, and instead of sitting in front of the couch. So there's just ways that we need to just challenge ourselves, from the smallest little deductions on our bank statement to the bigger ones.
I'm surprised Netflix, I don't look at it that often, but I believe that we pay like around, they did increase the price again. I think it was around like $15 a month that I'm paying for Netflix now. So maybe you have a fatter plan than I do. I'm not really sure what those plans are. But yeah, I hear you. I mean, we spend way too much money on that crap. My wife likes her shows and, Hulu. I mean, I think we get Hulu as part of another package that we have, like maybe through Verizon or something for our cell phone.
Yeah, same here.
We have all that crap, and I'm not a big TV watcher at all. So she'll pull me into some shows like Ozark we just finished watching, which was an awesome show. But I'm not one to sit and watch TV very much. But she's like, don't get rid of my Housewives of New Jersey and all that crap.
Yep, so, I got that thread as well.
Yeah, so we're still paying for a lot of that stuff. But yeah, I hear you. Like, it's really important to look at what you're spending money on and make sure you're making those conscious decisions. I mean, just another very quick story. Like, we haven't gone out to dinner in a very long time. Right. And, I have 3 kids, so I don't want to take all my kids out to dinner when we go out for like date night. It's just not nearly as much fun. Right. So we got to wait for a babysitter. And just last night, we had my mother-in-law who was able to come and watch our kids. And we wanted to go to a nice steakhouse, but the prices are ridiculous. So there is a very nice steakhouse in my area where if you go before 5:30 at night, it's half off everything on the menu. So even though, we're going with like the, we feel like we're going with like the grandmas and the grandpas in there and the old crew, but it was still an opportunity to go out to eat and at a reasonable price. We go to the steakhouse and even at half price, like we walked out of there still spending, just between the two of us, it was like $130. So what they do is they base the tip on the full price menu. So even though you're getting half off, they automatically add like a 20% gratuity based on the full amount of the menu. And it was nice. I mean, I got that nice like wedge salad with like the blue cheese and the bacon, which was good. We split like a porterhouse steak. So we had a very nice meal, but it still cost us $130 at the end of the day, even with half off the entire menu. So it's like crazy. Imagine at full price, like there's no way I'm going out and I'm dropping $275 to go out to dinner between me and my wife right now. It would just piss me off to the point where it's like I would just cut that stuff out. And even this, it's like, all right, we got our fix, we got out for a date night, but I'm going to scale it back with that stuff as well, because it's just not worth it. I'd rather get some chicken legs and barbecue in my backyard and have some friends and family over, and it costs us a quarter of the price that it costs to go out to eat. So yeah, the time has come to be very aware and know what's going on, because you don't want to just continue to throw money away, for things that are not needed. And to even take that a step further, the last thing you want to cut out with all this is your investments. And, people start to pull back, and the first thing they think of is, I need my paycheck to be bigger. I'm going to stop my 401k contributions, or I'm going to stop my IRA contributions, or whatever it is. And that's the worst thing to do, because these types of markets, this type of economy, that's when you make the money. That's when you get the money in as prices are going down. And then later on, your older self will thank you. So this is not the time to be cutting back on your 401k, your investments. This is the time to be cutting out, the needless shit that you don't really need to be using. So it's important.
I agree.
Yeah.
Investments are the one thing that's on sale right now, right? So it's kind of the bargain. That's where you're going to get your bargain, right? So you want to be able to, put things on pause. You don't have to say no forever to certain things. You could put them on pause. You could do them less. So just challenge yourself and just audit everything that you do, whether it's, small to large. So by doing that, you're going to find more money. There's always a way. You're going to figure out that way to survive. You're going to come out better. And also, if you keep your investments going, you're going to be thanking yourself, your older self. Your older self is going to be thanking your younger self for the decisions you're making. You're not going to remember, who was president, what the interest rates were. You're not going to remember that 20 years from now, right? You're going to be, I'm thankful that I made a consistent decision. I constantly challenged myself, and I constantly overcame these challenges. And when crazy came knocking to the door, I didn't go with the crazy, and I stayed away from it. And I try to, stay consistent and provide for my family and increase my contributions and avoid this crazy inflation challenge. So, try to just, try to do that. Sit down with your wife, your loved one, and just kind of try to audit things and just figure out ways to challenge yourselves and have fun doing it as well. So that just really kind of helps my family. And we're actually learning. We're failing, and we're getting some wins, but we're figuring it out, and we're trying to always get better. And we are overcoming inflation. We're getting hit hard. We're not escaping it, but we're trying to overcome it in ways that we can. So it's really has helped.
Yeah, exactly.
Another a topic that a lot of people are concerned about is their emergency fund. They say kind of 3 to 6 months, is pretty good based on your expenses. But with inflation, should your emergency fund be inflated? So and so that's just a good topic to talk about. Rich, I would just love to hear your take on it, since I think you have a good conservative approach when it comes to emergency funds.
Yeah, so I do think that you juice up your emergency fund during these times, especially if we're going to go into a recession and you might be at risk of losing your job. So everybody's different. The amount of money you should have in your emergency fund, it totally depends on your situation, right? Me and my wife are self-employed, both of us. So our income goes up and down. We need to have a fatter emergency fund than, say, for example, a couple that are maybe 2 teachers or 2 cops or something like that, where their income is pretty stable and they're not really at risk of losing their job. So it definitely depends. But as we go into this period, having more money in the bank, I've been preaching patience. 2022 is the year of patience. It's not a year where you need to make any tremendous moves with investments, with buying houses, with any of that stuff. It's a year to be patient, right? We don't need to take exuberant risk right now in this type of environment. Let's see how things play out over the course of the year. So personally, I'm sitting on more cash than I typically would, because not only do I want to have more in an emergency fund in case we have a downturn, but I also want to have that dry powder in case opportunities arise for me to make additional investments. If we do see a real pullback in the housing market, maybe I could pick up a rental property, or with stock prices, if they do go down, 30, 40%, I would love to be able to step in with some dry powder and add to my, different holdings. So having more cash, I think this is a great year to do it, and like I-bonds. I don't know if I mentioned I-bonds on the last episode, but I-bonds are a great place. Like if you have a certain amount in your emergency fund that you're comfortable with, let's say it's 6 times your monthly expenses, right? Let's just call it 40 grand. So you have 40 grand in your emergency fund. What I personally did was, me and my wife, we both bought, you could buy up to $10,000 in I-bonds. So we each did that. And I just tacked that on to my emergency fund. So I didn't take money out of my emergency fund to buy it. I just looked at it like I was increasing my emergency fund by buying that. So by increasing it by 20,000 bucks. Now with I-bonds, you can't touch them for a year. So it's not readily available. That's why I still want to have my emergency fund in place and then do that above and beyond it. But, I-bonds right now, they're paying 9.62%, and that rate's guaranteed for 6 months. And then it adjusts after that based on inflation. So there's a lot of good reasons to own I-bonds in this environment, but you just have to understand exactly how they work and everything. So you want to do a little bit of research. You buy them through the Treasury Direct, but they're a great place. But yeah, so I do think, to answer your question, that this is a good time to have more cash in the bank than you normally would, just to be ready, be prepared. Because even with inflation, if it continues to go up, if prices do not come back down, you're going to be spending more money than you used to. So you might have to dip into that emergency fund. So pad it. This is a good time to pad it.
Yeah. And speaking of I-bonds, after I talked to you last week, I decided to close out my kids' savings accounts and take all the money and put it into I-bonds. So it's going to be generating a lot more. I think the money was sitting there for about a year and then basically made $1. Now it's going to be working for itself. They're not going to need the money until another 10 years. So, I think it's a good, strategy for me to, confidently, start investing money and then, see how it works and, even double down and add more. So it definitely helps. Emergency fund. It's a crazy year for emergency funds, right? So you have to be a little bit more conservative. I don't like the 3 months kind of emergency fund. It's a little too scary for me. I like, 6 months to a year, with the way things are happening with interest rates and, how I'm seeing a lot of job cuts lately. I'm going to sleep better at night with a year emergency fund. But I could also dip into my emergency fund when it's fat for a year. So I can kind of, take 1,000 here or there, as I need it, and treat my emergency fund kind of like a credit card, just, the fat end of it, not going into the, deep into it. But, I can kind of treat my emergency fund as a credit card then when it's a year out. So that's kind of what I'm going with, just so I sleep better at night. I have a riskier job. My wife has more conservative job. She's the teacher. So, so it's kind of, it's kind of yin and yang when it comes to risk and reward. So I still like to sleep better at night, and I'm going to go with about a year, but I'm going to go dip in and out from, about 9 months to a year, depending on vacations and stuff like that. So I'm going to try to, live aggressively the way that I like to, with, with traveling, with investing, but I'm also going to be a little bit mindful, so I'm not too risky, and I don't get caught with a low emergency fund. So I'm going to kind of just, have to scale up a little bit, and it's going to be a little bit different than what I'm used to. But it's just going to make me feel a little bit better until things die down for, till after summer.
Yeah. And, I always talk about having different levers you could pull. So like another idea is, if you don't have that much cash in the bank and it's hard for you to save money on a regular basis and your emergency fund is not where you want it to be, I like to list out and just see, what other levers could I pull if I really got myself into a bad situation? Not that they're ideal, but just that that they're there, because maybe it will help you sleep better at night. So things like, for example, like I do have a home equity line of credit attached to my house that obviously I don't want to use all the money and blow it on that, because my house is at risk, right? The house is collateral, but I know it's a lever that I could pull. It's money that I could get access to, right? Even credit cards and credit lines, just even knowing how much availability you have just in case of a real serious emergency. It's just good to know these things. Also, like if you have Roth IRAs that are out there, you could get your hands on that money in case of an emergency. Like with a Roth IRA, you could always take out the amount that you put into it. So for example, if you contributed $30,000 throughout the year and now it's worth $40,000, you could take that $30,000 out without any taxes or penalty. Not that you want to do that, right? Because that money is for retirement. That's going to be a nice fat tax-free nest egg in retirement. But if the shit really hits the fan, you could start to pull money off of that and take withdrawals from it. So I like to at least list out those things and know, worst case scenario, where could I really go that I need to pull money from? But obviously you don't want to do that. That would really just have to be a worst case scenario, but it might help you sleep better at night, just knowing what that looks like in that situation.
Yeah, that's definitely good to know, because that truly is an emergency. If a real emergency comes to the door, and kind of your kid's birthday is not an emergency, right?
No,
so
exactly.
No different to that, right? You're going to kind of, but if you have health issues, there's layoffs and you can't find a job for a year, those are emergencies. And it's just good to know and have the peace of mind that you can buy yourself more time, dip into those funds. And when you do land on better times, you can kind of, put that money back in and get back on your feet. So definitely, I like the conversation on that for sure. Now, another topic, with inflation is, I know we talked about saving money, saying no, cutting costs, beefing up the emergency fund. Now, how could families, and these families are very busy, we all have kids, how can they kind of make more money during these, inflated times? Not just save money, but make more money and add more to their salary and income, so they can still go on these vacations. They could still invest how they want to do and still cut some of the debt in their life. What have you been seeing out there that is really just helping these families, make more income, but still live that balance of a work-life balance?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough thing to answer, right? And you have to be motivated to want to make that extra money. But we live in the world of side hustles now, right? Everybody has a side hustle. So like one thing that my family is doing, and maybe I'm pushing this and my wife is fighting me on it, but I have her listing, like she has so many bags and shoes and stuff like that she used to be more into. Well, my wife, she runs a clothing boutique, right? So that's her job, right? She owns a clothing boutique that she sells through Facebook Marketplace and things like that. So now I have her going through her closet and just posting things on eBay, right? You'd be amazed what people will buy, like even like our children's old clothes, things like that. As long as it's in good shape, you sell it used on there, you're probably sitting on a couple grand in your house that's just laying around, where you could post some of those things on different websites like Mercari and eBay and things like that. We used to do Amazon FBA at one point, where we were creating products and selling them through Amazon. So things like that you could do out of the house as a side hustle on top of your 9-to-5 job, just to try to drum up more income. I mean, there's even things that I've looked into, like even for my son, where he could go and, get different types of jobs where he could earn money and help people, like even like tutoring and things like that. So you have to really just think about what skills you have that people might be in need of, even like, website design, like you could learn the skill. And there's so many websites out there like Fiverr and Upwork and things like that, where you could go and offer your services just on an hourly rate and try to earn some extra money to try to take the burden off. There's so many opportunities out there. There's so many ways to network, even through LinkedIn and through different websites, where people are out there looking for services, where if you could really hone in on one and offer some value, the money's out there to be made, I believe, at least.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's the perfect time to make more money, right? And there's a perfect time to make more money when your kids are, like, if you have a baby, while they're sleeping, you can just pull out the laptop. You could kind of, work from home. You could work odd hours now. I'm not saying to do that for your full-time position. That always might not work, but you're able to do that when it comes to these part-time, these gigs that are out there. One really good hack is if you go on LinkedIn and you can go and you could search and drill down to work from home. You don't even need a radius. You just do part-time work from home, and they have quick apply. You could literally apply to like 5 jobs a minute. You don't even have to read the description. I mean, I suggest you do, but what I like to do is, if you're applying that quickly, you read the description once they contact you, then you give it the time. So you could just, if you're very busy, mom or dad, and, looking for jobs is very time consuming. Just do the quick apply, get people to contact you, have some conversations, get out there, get some side hustles, make some good contacts, get little 10-hour gigs. It really helps. And it really gives you that extra breath that you need every month, and to kind of, make, more money, to be able to pay off debt, to beef up your emergency fund, to take on these crazy Disney vacations. It also is going to give you a better experience for your profession. It's going to give you more contacts, more people to give you better jobs down the road. So this really kind of helps you. And you don't always have to have the perfect job when it comes to your part-time job. It could suck. I've taken part-time jobs that suck. Yeah. I've gotten jobs off of Craigslist when I was first starting marketing. That's how I started my agency. I got one position on Craigslist, and I found out a hack on how to do it. And then literally after a year, I was making 6 figures on Craigslist doing marketing jobs. But I'm not even, like, that's how weird it is that I went to a place where nobody wanted to go. You can't brag about getting jobs off Craigslist, right? I have a bachelor's degree in marketing, and I'm getting jobs off Craigslist. Next thing you know, I got about 10 of them that pay a couple thousand, and I'm able to set myself up and be financially free. I don't have to ever tell the next customer that, because they just say, I have a client base, I have referrals. It doesn't have to look pretty, right? We're here to make some side money. We're trying to better our families. We're trying to set our family up so we could have these ugly jobs. We don't have to, and then eventually we could say no to them as we kind of make more money. We become more financially stable. So look out there, get some jobs, have some conversations, get some interviews, get some no's, have bad interviews, learn, just get better. You'll see how you start to improve your income, and you're able to do it while your kids are around, right? You don't have to always be, the perfect parent, right? Your husband can go watch the kids while you kind of do a meeting for an hour on a laptop, right? While they go to bed, you can work till midnight. And you could do things that you like to do all the way, when it comes to work as well. So, try to get these gigs. It really personally has helped me become financially free. I was able, it gets addicting. So it was really good. It really kind of stepped my family to the next level. So I really suggest that now is the time to kind of strike for that. And you don't even have to be away from your family. You could do it all from home, depending on your style and your skills.
Yeah, I always say that it's such a great life skill to learn, to be able to earn money without an employer, right? Not saying that you have to be an entrepreneur and self-employed, but just with a side hustle, just being able to market yourself, to learn how to sell yourself, right? To be able to provide value and get paid for that. It is a great life skill, especially at a young age, to be able to do that. We have a young girl in our neighborhood who, she started a dog walking business, and she's doing awesome. She just markets throughout she markets on Facebook through like the community websites and everything. And she just goes around the neighborhood and walking everybody's dog, and she's doing very well for herself. So you don't need to be a genius, right? You could just go out there, do a little bit of hustling, get your services out there, make a nice side hustle doing that. So yeah, it's definitely a great time to be doing that.
Some of these jobs are paying better than some of the full-time jobs out there. So, and they're paying more by hour, but obviously it's less hours. But it's still it's not what it used to be out there. You know, people need a specific skill. They might only need it for 5 hours, and they're willing to pay really good for those 5 hours.
Yep.
So you know, put yourself out there. It's definitely going to help you. Perfect time for inflation is to now inflate your salary. So you know, definitely check that out. Let's wrap this up with one more topic. So I guess we talked about, you know, saving money, cutting costs. We talked about making money. We talked about our emergency fund. How could families start to reduce their expenses besides what they're spending on? How could they reduce what they've already have when it comes to their debt? And I'm saying, you know, big debts from house to car, to credit card bills, to college, you know, payments. How could families start to just chip away at that? Because sometimes removing a part of your debt or all of it is the best raise you can get, and it's a tax-free raise. Yes. So, you know, let's dive into that, Rich. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, I do love Dave Ramsey's debt snowball method. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's basically like, you know, you list all your debts from the smallest to the largest, and you just go into attack mode. And now that we're in an environment where the Fed is raising interest rates, a very smart thing to do right now is to list out any money that you owe to anybody out there, right? So all your credit cards, personal loans, car loans, mortgage, home equity lines, whatever money, student loans, whatever debts you have, you list them out, you put the interest rate next to them to see what interest rate you're paying and the monthly payment. And you look at it, you know, in one big picture, and then you can start making decisions around that. Anything that is a variable rate right now, you know that the rates are going up. So that's debt that you want to eliminate right off the bat. So things like credit cards is a big one. Maybe even your personal loans. If you have a personal line of credit through your bank, that's probably a variable rate. Home equity lines of credit, those are variable rates. So you know that those are getting more expensive. So what I like to do is I like to list everything from the smallest balance to the biggest, and then just start going into attack mode, right? And now, not to say you want to take money from your emergency funds, but you might be able to eliminate a payment that you're making and then replenish that emergency fund that much faster. So if you have, like, let's say, for example, you have a loan where you only owe $3,000 left on that loan, but the payment is $400 a month. That's a big payment, right? So if you just take that money from your emergency fund and you wipe it out, now you freed up cash flow, $400 a month. And then you just go back on the attack and you get your emergency fund back to that level that you had it before. But I love the idea of just attacking that variable rate debt right now and trying to go at it as quickly as you can, freeing up the cash flow. And then it's like you take that cash flow and you replenish wherever you had to get it from, or you juice up your investments if you're able to do that, right? But it's a matter of being smart and going through the order of what makes the most sense to pay off. And Dave Ramsey's debt snowball, he starts with the lowest balance just so you get a quick win and you get some momentum, right? So if you have a credit card that you owe $1,000 on, and then everything else is much more than that, you bang out that $1,000, you take that payment, you snowball it into the second debt, and you just start going down the line. You go through the pecking order of trying to get out of all that debt as quickly as you can. But it really depends on everybody's situation and what you have going on. Like, at the same point, if you don't have enough money in your emergency fund, if you're tight right now, then it's not, you know, a great idea to start pulling whatever cash you have to start paying off debts. Yeah. You might need that money, right? If we go into a worse situation. So it really does depend on what your situation is. That's why it's that much more important to try to juice up your income and get out of that crappy debt. All these things are going to do, they're going to relieve stress in your life, right? If you get rid of this debt, it's going to release stress and it's going to make you feel better about your situation and get that momentum going. But yeah, that you got to focus on that first, because it's just going to drown you. You know, it's the weight that's going to be holding you down. So you got to attack it.
Yeah, and just like you said, it's the weight that's going to be holding you down. So the more debt you remove, the lighter you're going to be, the faster you're going to be to recover your emergency fund, the faster you're going to be to invest. So to get rid of some of those big debts, the high interest debts, that's really just going to make you more efficient as a family. You're going to be able to do more things as a family. You're going to be able to build generational wealth faster. And these are all things that you really want to kind of stress. You want to just list everything, just like Rich said, and you really want to knock out, especially the credit card debt. You want to definitely get rid of that. You know, and as you can start to knock out your car, your college, and those types of debt, you're really going to see how lighter you are and how really you're going to have no bills. And it really helps, and to the point where you're able to start, you know, knocking down your mortgage, investing larger. You're going to see how much that makes you lighter every month. You're going to have a lot of wiggle room to be able to kind of allocate your money towards places you would have never thought of. So try to live a lighter lifestyle when it comes to the debt. Really understand and learn this stuff. Don't just think because you can afford it doesn't mean that you should buy it. So just, you have to really kind of take a look at what you're doing, because you might be buying an item twice, right? If you buy an item on sale on credit card, you're paying regular price at the end of the day. So just be very cautious of what you're doing, learn this stuff, become a nerd about it, fail, do good, figure it out. That's what it's all about. Get your hands dirty in this stuff. And, it took me a while to really learn these finances. I didn't know, the damage that, debt can do for the things I wanted to do in my future. So when I really sat down and listened to a lot of podcasts I listened to Dave Ramsey, really help break down this stuff and really put me in order on what I need to do and how I could be intentional with my money every month, and then get better, get faster, and get more aggressive with investing. So definitely just pay attention to, removing debt is just as good as getting a better job. It's going to give you that raise, and it's going to be a tax-free raise. So, definitely look into that. And it's really going to help you during these inflated times, and it's just going to make you less inflated. So definitely, check that out, and really kind of have a meeting with, your significant other, and, just analyze your debt and see how you can kind of perfect, your bills, and so you can invest more and live a better life.
Yeah. Yep. And when you look at people who have, gone down this path before, people that are very wealthy, that are financially free, none of them have high interest rate revolving debt like credit cards or personal loans or any of those. They might have mortgages. They might have a lot of debt that is tied to assets that give them an income, right? But none of them have crappy debt. None of them have credit card debt where they're paying 20% on those. So if you want to follow, what the rich have already figured out, what the wealthy have done in this world, it's yes, they might have debt that's leveraged to assets, but none of them have credit card debt, even car loans, things like that. They eliminate that stuff from their lives, right? And they just focus on building their net worth and investing and, just only carrying good debt in their lives that are going to give them an income that are tied to assets. But some of them have even no debt whatsoever, So if you want to follow those people, you got to start somewhere. And we might make it sound like it's easy to do, but it's not, right? It's hard to do, especially if you're living paycheck to paycheck and you don't have the money. But you just have to start somewhere. You just have to have that goal. That's why Dave Ramsey's Debt Snowball. I'm not a huge Dave Ramsey fan. Like, I don't love his investment advice. He's all over the place. He's a little bit even his credit card advice, like I use credit cards for everything, credit card rewards programs, all that stuff. So I'm going to agree with him with that stuff. But his Debt Snowball is legit. That is a very good way to get out of debt, get focused. And if you're just starting out, that is the perfect place.
He's really good for people who haven't learned or have the willpower. When they get a credit card, they see it as their money. He really kind of gets people that don't have that can't avoid that temptation. And he puts it in check. Really good for when you're first starting out, or when you already have a lot of debt and you made a lot of mistakes. He really helps clean it up. And then, then you're going to really start to learn along the way. So definitely check out all these. There's a lot of good financial advice. Listen to us for more episodes, because this is going to wrap it up for us. Hopefully we help deflate some of the inflation that's out there. So stay tuned for some more episodes. We hope that you can subscribe, like our content. That's just going to help us do more of this type of stuff. So we appreciate, you taking the time, and hopefully we'll catch you on the next episode.
All right. Good to see you. We'll see everybody again soon. All right. Bye-bye.